Hello, this is Gina Garcia here with IH10 Realty. So last time I did my weekly email, I basically talked about the process of contract to close. So much of this is going to pertain to buyers and for sellers, but you'll see a lot of this actually be more for the buyer side of it. I'll add some stuff in there for sellers, but in most cases, the buyers usually do a lot of these things when they're trying to buy their home. And the sellers we're just like monitoring the buyer side of it so we can make sure that they're following through what they need to do and talking to the agent and title company and that kind of thing. So, anyhow, now that we have passed, we are now under contract. We have a contract, a title, everything is signed. There is no legal binding contract until the last party signs. Now, I know a lot of times what I've seen agents actually do contracts and then they miss an initial or they make a change after the fact. Legally, that is not the way you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to actually have the last initial change be the time that you actually execute a contract. That is when the contract starts. It's a legal binding contract at that point. All parties have signed. There's nothing to change because if you make any changes to a contract, you're doing it through an amendment and you're doing it after the contract has been executed and signed by all parties. So the last party signs, the last change is when a contract now is legally officiated and it is going to title. Okay. So at that point, one of the first things that the buyer needs to do is they have to get their earnest money and their option money to title. Okay. Your earnest money and option money are typically going to be together. You can wire those together. Okay. Your option money will range anywhere from $10 to $15 per day. It could be more, it could be less. I mean, it just depends on what you negotiate with the seller. Okay. You can present what you want to the seller. The seller can always come back and say, no, I want this instead of that, right? But whatever the amount is, you have an option period, which gives you the right to terminate during those days you've asked for, which is the termination option period. Okay. That gives you the right to do inspections, check everything on the house. It's not limited to that. The termination option period is considered an unlimited right to terminate the contract during a certain period of days. So once your contract is executed, which just say, for the sake of this being easy, January 1st, your contract is executed because it says it on the back of your contract. Executed date is January 1st, right? So your first day of option would be the second day, January 2nd. So you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it depends on how many days you're doing. So if it's 10 days, of course, it's going to be $100. If it's $10 a day, maybe 100. If it's $15 a day, 150. But that would be your option period. That is what you're paying for the right to terminate during those days. If you're doing your earnest money and you do 1%, that is typical what we're looking at as 1% at least minimum. Okay. Then you're going to do, if it's a $250,000 house, it's going to be $2,500 plus the option money, and then you're going to wire to the title company. Now you can always take a check over there. You can always take a cashier's check, but no cash is due. It's all going to be cashier's check. It could be a personal check, but anything over $1,500, typically they want to see a cashier's check. So I always tell people better to wire it if you can wire it or do a cashier's check. If you are going to wire funds to a title company, you want to make sure that you call the title company and verify their wiring instructions. And if you get an email that says, oh, we changed the instructions, use this account instead, you still need to call the title company again and say, is this your account number? I just got an email that says that the account is now a different account number, because there's a lot of wire fraud. Okay. So it is so much better to just call and just to confirm that is the account number. Okay. So anyway, that's your option period. Okay. And the restriction, or I guess the most important thing to remember, the requirement on these option period and earnest money is that they have to be delivered to the title company within 3 business days. Okay. So if you have an executed contract on the first full day is the second. 3 business days is going to be Thursday, Friday. You skip Saturday and Sunday because it's not a business day. And Monday by 5 o'clock, you need to have the money into title. Very important to understand, because if you do not get the option money or the earnest money into title by that third day, you do not have an option period, you do not have a contract. Okay. And technically or legally, the seller can take other offers without even telling you, because you don't have anything that says you have an executed contract. Okay. Monies along with the executed contract make an offer strong and has validity to it, because you're fulfilling the contract. You're basically doing all the parts of the contract to be able to make it a legal binding contract. Okay. So basically you've got an executed contract on the first, your first full day is the second, and then you've got 3 business days. Now, the caveat on this is that even though it's 3 business days and you've got till Monday at 5 p.m. to get the money in, your option period will include weekends. So it will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, depending on if you do 7 days, 10 days, whatever. So it will still include weekends. The only thing that does not include weekends is the days that you are required to get the money into title. So they do that because they know sometimes it falls on a Saturday, and that isn't right because the title comes in not open, or it falls on a Sunday, or if there's a holiday, there's no way to get it to title because, everybody's closed on a holiday. So option periods are really good. You don't want to bypass that because it gives you the right to terminate for whatever reason. I always tell my buyers, whenever you are in an option period, do not waste time. Get your money into title. Get your inspection ordered as soon as possible, and don't waste any time, because the sooner we get an inspection done, the sooner we can get through this option period. And if there's any problems we need to talk about, we can negotiate everything during this time frame. And that way, if we do need to cancel, we've got plenty of time to do so. If we need to renegotiate prices or amounts or decrease on a price, sales price or whatever it is, we have the time to go back and forth and negotiate. When you wait till the very last day or so to do that, the seller legally does not have to do anything. And they push you in a corner to where you either have to cancel the contract altogether, or you have to take what they're giving you. And I'd rather you just have the time to just go back and forth and negotiate. If it doesn't work, then you cancel the contract and move on. If it does work, then you've got a good contract and you've got people that are working to get it all taken care of so that you get to the closing table. Option periods are so important. I cannot emphasize that. It's just a way of making sure that you know that you're secure with the house, that you're buying something that is good in value, that the repairs are not an issue. When you're doing inspections, I always tell my buyers, make sure when you're doing inspections that you understand that doing an inspection doesn't mean that the house has to be perfect. I mean, if the house has got a 10-year-old AC, but the AC is working fine and it's been working fine, you can't go in there and tell the seller replace the AC because it's 10 years old. There's no reason for that. It's not broken. It's not, inoperable. If you got a roof that's about 20 years old but never had any leaks, you can't have the seller replace the roof because there's no reason, it's not leaking. Now, could that be a problem with your insurance? That could be a problem with your insurance because it's a 20-year-old roof. But you're going to find it very, very hard to get a seller to replace a roof that does not have leaks. It's just an old roof. So there are things that we have to go back and forth to negotiate. We could always try, but it doesn't mean that's what you're going to get. So those are things that I tell people when you're looking for issues with a house so that you can tackle those issues. You've got a couple things you can look at that you want to make sure of, because if it's cosmetic, it can be taken care of over time. You can get a bucket of paint, you can replace doorknobs, you can replace hinges, flooring. Those things are costly, but they're not as costly as a major plumbing leak, as an electrical problem, as a major roof issue, or termites, that kind of thing. So when you're looking at homes, think of it at the perspective of, this is a first-time home. I'm going to move right in, but I'm going to take care of these things over time. Now, there are a lot of houses out there that a lot of people have actually remodeled, and did everything too. Great, perfect. Then you don't really have much issues. But the ones that don't and are fine, they may just be outdated and they need to be updated. And a seller's not going to update a house for you just because you want that updated. If you want it updated, then there's plenty of new homes out there that we can get you in that has all the trendy new updates for you so that you have now something brand new and it's got nice and updated look to it. So this is your option period here. Just so you know, this is how you do this on a pre-owned home. In your new homes, you don't have this on a new home. You do have some of the options on a new home to be able to walk away, but certain builders have their own like grace periods to get out. So I'd have to call these builders case by case to find out what they do. Okay. But on a pre-owned home, this is almost all the time. This is the way it's going to be on a pre-owned home. This is what you're looking at. Okay. So this is your option period. This is what happens. You want to get your inspection done. Your inspection is covered by you. It runs anywhere from $350 to $700. You never want to bypass that. Okay. You're paying for an option period from the seller because you want the right to terminate if there's an issue with the inspection. Your earnest money is going to be at least 1% of the sales price. And during this time, your title commitment is being ordered. So you are going to be able to get a title commitment policy that shows that there's no liens or judgments against the house. And this is something that you want to know before you get all the way to closing and there's an issue and it can't be taken care of. Okay. So I hope this helps because this is something that we want to make sure that every buyer understands. An option period is really important. And this is the time that you're going to rely on your agent to review this inspection, check to see if there's any issues so that they can negotiate those issues, those contracts, those closings, whatever. They're going to negotiate that with your seller. So that way, if there's anything that they need to do, they can negotiate the price, they can negotiate closing costs, or they can negotiate repairs. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's a little bit more detail, but this is the first part. As soon as your contract is signed and executed and you've got your money to title, that's the next step, is getting that inspection going. And then I've always got a list of inspectors to give the buyers so they can pick from. But for the most part, you'll have a choice to do that. You'll get it set up, and then you'll be able to review to see the integrity of the home, what's going on, and then decide what you want to do next. How are you going to negotiate that? What's the condition of the home? So I hope this helps, but this is the next step now. You are now under contract and you are moving forward into an option period. Okay. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. We'll go over the next step in the next week or so. And it's just going to be like a rolling thing of what we're doing. The sellers go through the same thing. The only difference is that on the flip side of it, they are waiting for the buyer to get this taken care of. Okay. Now keep in mind, there's two things. Okay. The buyers have the right to cancel during the option period. The seller has to wait to see if the buyer is going to stay in the deal or not. Unfortunately, there is no right for the seller to terminate. Now, the seller can decide that they don't want to do anything, and they can decide that they don't even want to mess with repairs and just say, I'm not doing this. And then, of course, force the buyer out of the contract. But for the most part, there is nothing in the contract for the buyer, for the seller, to get out of the contract during the option period. It's for the buyer's sake. They have that right to do their inspections, check everything, and decide that they want to cancel or continue to move forward to closing. So I hope that helps a little bit, but there's a lot more entailed, but this is just kind of giving you a rundown of how contract to close works. And that's the first part, is your option period once you get past contract. I'll talk to you soon. You have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.